Scott Norman. Good morning. I'm Executive Director of the Texas Association of Builders. I want to thank you all for taking the time to join us today to celebrate what would have been this morning our opening session of the Sunbelt Builders Show. And Alan Graham was, we were honored to have him joining us, and he is gracious enough to do this remotely. So I know we were all excited about being in Grapevine this week for the Sunbelt Builders Show and all that had to offer, the networking and business opportunities that it offers us. And I want to say on behalf of the TAB leadership, the Sunbelt co-chairs, all of our hundreds of volunteers and TAB staff, we are truly sad that we're unable to get together in person this week. We do look forward to placing our efforts next year in 2021. We hope it's better on many fronts, of course, but it will be the 20th anniversary of the Sunbelt Builders Show, along with the 75th anniversary of the Texas Association of Builders. So we will have a lot to celebrate, and we look forward to seeing you there. Since mid-March, we've all been very aware of one thing, as we're trying to do this morning. The pandemic has taught us how to pivot from our normal business and personal protocols. We appreciate you pivoting with us as well as we navigate these new norms. Please know that since the beginning of this crisis and continuing to this day and going forward, your local home builders associations, the Texas Association of Builders, and the National Association of Home Builders will do everything we can on behalf of our great residential construction industry. We've been working very hard to make sure that you're able to continue to work and deemed essential, and will continue to do so going forward. Before I introduce our dedicated sponsor for this morning's presentation, Great American Insurance Group, I'd like to take a moment to thank the other 2020 Sunbelt presenting sponsors. Thank you to Builder Insurance Group, administered by Builder Agent Network, James Hardy Building Products, Morrison Supply Company, and Structure Home Warranty. Thank you also to our Sunbelt co-chairs, Tiffany Acree and Aaron Wright, and their committee for their tireless work in planning a regular show and then a pandemic show, and then having to make the difficult decision of no show. But now I want to turn to our message from our sponsor for this morning, Great American Insurance Group, and I hope you enjoy a morning of inspiration with Alan Graham. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning, Texas, and hello from your friends at Great American Insurance Group in Cincinnati, Ohio. We wish we could be there in person to enjoy all that the Sunbelt Builder Show has to offer, but we look forward to joining you next year. We're proud to be sponsoring the keynote speaker for the 11th year in a row, and we're especially excited to hear Alan Graham's positive message about building communities for the homeless. 2020 has posed some serious challenges for us all, and we hope that you find encouragement and inspiration from Alan's message today. At Great American, we're built upon a strong foundation of core values, and our purpose is to help protect all the great that you do. With that in mind, please enjoy Alan Graham, be safe, and go do great things.
The Community First Village is the craziest place I've ever been and ever lived.
Oh!
I love this place. What we're doing here in Austin, Texas has never been done anywhere in the United States of America or the world. Mobile Loaves and Fishes has created a new movement designed to lift the most chronically homeless men and women of our community up off the streets. When I look back on it, it was nothing short of a miracle. The current system for addressing chronic homelessness in the United States of America is absolutely not working. This is a human issue that requires a human response.
Peanut butter and jelly or meat and cheese. Need a blanket, bro? Yeah. Let's grab us some food, man. Yeah.
Mobile Loaves and Fishes was started back in 1998 in order to feed the homeless in Austin, Texas. When the truck goes out, those that are serving and those that are being served are on the same side of the serving counter.
Oreos, cookies, water.
There's no disconnect. And this requires a human-to-human, heart-to-heart relationship.
Yeah, I know what it means. It's the simple things.
And that singularly was the game changer.
Truly, that food truck ministry is what taught us what we needed to know in order to build Community First Village.
In 2004, I came up with this idea that we could go out and buy a gently used recreational vehicle, lift somebody up off the streets. And I started fantasizing as the serial entrepreneur that I am. Why can't we build an RV park?
Community First Village is a 51-acre master planned community that is designed to lift the chronically homeless up off the streets of Austin. Mobile Loaves and Fishes cares for the people who have experienced long-term homelessness. Many of them 5, 10, 15, even 20 plus years. At that point, they have experienced so much trauma.
We believe that the single greatest cause of homelessness, particularly in our country, is a profound, catastrophic loss of family.
I was married for 8 years. I got a divorce in 92. I lost my house and my world because I lost custody of my son, full custody. It devastated me, so I medicated myself with drugs. To tell you the truth, I really didn't want to live anymore. But coming to Community First, it's been one of the best things that's ever happened to me.
Our role is to really bring them into a community where they are loved and cared about and where they have an opportunity to begin the process of healing from all of that trauma.
At Mobile Loaves and Fishes, our only goal is to inspire communities into a lifestyle of service with the homeless. That's it.
The neighbors that live at Community First Village are incredibly gifted human beings. One of the joys of the work that we do is being able to give them the opportunity to put those gifts and talents to work.
We create micro-enterprise opportunities for our neighbors to earn a dignified income doing things that they love to do. We have a car care business, an art house, a pottery operation, a blacksmithing shop, a wood shop, and a full-blown organic farming operation.
Over the last 2 years, we've paid out more than $1 million to our neighbors. That's putting money back into their pockets to help them to be able to earn a living and enjoy life here. All of us desire to have purpose in our life. Community First Village is transforming the lives of everyone who's a part of this community.
This place, it's really empowered me to do great things. I have my own family here. A real family that pulled me up and loved me when I couldn't love myself. This is where I got my life back.
Housing will never solve homelessness, but community will.
It's a blessing to be here. It's a blessing on so many different levels to be here with you. I wish my video could come up, but we're just going to kind of walk through this. And I hope to leave you with a bunch of nuggets to marinate on. And the biggest one being how critically important the building community is to the work that we do. And I think that if we ever really want to move the needle here in the United States of America and all of our respective cities, that we have to look at a whole new, different, innovative way of doing what we do. Mobile Loaves and Fishes has now built a 51-acre master plan community that will have nearly 550 homes that include what we call micro homes that are 200 square feet or less, and manufactured homes called park model RVs that are about 400 square feet in total size. Our mission is to lift the chronically homeless men and women of Austin, Texas, up off the streets. And so I'm kind of want to walk through who these brothers and sisters, what our fundamental belief is, and who these brothers and sisters are, and maybe there'll be some stereotype shifts along the way, and then I'll connect at the end how important the building community is, particularly, all the building community and all the suppliers. First of all, I want to begin with the fundamental philosophy that we believe that the single greatest cause to homelessness is a profound, catastrophic loss of family. It is not drug addiction. It is not mental health issues. It is not physical health issues. It's not about living wage. It's not about, affordable housing. Everyone, virtually, almost without exception, that's on this call has someone in their family that battles one of these issues. In my case, my mother suffered profound years. So these things exist in our families. My mother and my brother, my mother was never homeless. My brother touched into it a little bit, but for the most part, our family came up underneath it. Even though it's extraordinarily dysfunctional, we were there. In the population of the chronically homeless in Austin, which amounts to approximately 1,200 people over a population of about 2 million people, this amounts to 0.06% of our population. It's that way in Dallas and Houston and San Antonio. It's that way nationally in terms of the total percentage to the total population. We have a fundamental belief that housing will never solve homelessness, but community will. And many people on this Zoom call are community builders. You're out there trying to build places of community for people to reside and to live and to thrive in. But when it comes to people that live in poverty, for the most part, it's become a very transactional model. We just try to build a unit, a multi-story unit, and then we try to stuff people into those units without really creating the opportunity for community and the interaction of community. And at the Community First Village, it's entirely different than that. And so again, we believe that housing will never solve homelessness, but community will. And, housing is necessary in the scheme of things, but it actually turns out to be insufficient. Back in March, there was a phenomenal article published in the Atlantic magazine that anybody can go and download. It's written by a writer named David Brooks. And the title of the article is "The Nuclear Family Was a Mistake." And that's a caustic headline, but I got to tell you, you got to read that article to understand completely what it was talking about. And if you go back in history and you look at family, not only was there a nuclear family, a man and a woman and the children within that context, but outside of that nuclear family, there was this very powerful forged family. There were aunts, uncles, cousins, there were friends, there's the church community. There were all kinds of things that were going on. But in essence, in a cultural way in the United States, we've lost, because we are so distributed around the country. Your parents may live in Seattle somewhere while you're living in Austin or Houston, or your children have moved away, that the forged family has actually become broken, so that when a catastrophe happens within the nuclear family, the forged family is actually not intact to come in and come up underneath that. So if you look at the men and women that you see under the bridges and standing on the street corners, they're the ones that have not only experienced a catastrophic nuclear family loss, but there was also no forged family on the outside to come in and pick them up. And when you look at the level of trauma for the men and women that live on the streets of all of our respective cities, it's just unbelievable where they come from. Like, I can tell you anecdotally that if you were to ask every woman that we lifted up off the streets that lives in our community, how many times over the course of their life they had been sexually assaulted, they could not answer that question. I see my video just came on, so that's awesome. And so when you think about that one little nugget all by itself, and the pain and trauma of experiencing something like that, even one time, much less multiple times, it becomes, unbelievable. And so when you look at the demographics of the people that live in our community, I want to describe them a little bit, The average age of the men and women, the formerly chronically homeless men and women that live in our community, is 58 years old. The average length of time on the streets is 10 years. Now, I'm going to tell you that I've personally, over the past 15, 16 years, have spent about 250 plus nights on the streets. And I cannot imagine somebody having to spend 10 years on the streets. Unbelievable. 65% of our population have 2 or more comorbid diseases, many of them 5, 6, and 7 different diseases that they're battling, from mental health, addiction issues, physical health issues, sometimes multiple physical health issues. And the average age of death is just under 60 years old. Now, one of the things that I want to talk about are some of the common stereotypes that are associated with men and women that you see standing on the street corners. First of all, we believe kind of on a cultural basis that they have chosen to be there. And I'm going to tell you that never, ever, ever in the history of all mankind, going back to the advent of man, has a little 12-year-old boy or girl ever laid in bed at night in that little twilight zone as they're about to doze off into deep sleep, looking out the window at the starry, starry skies and dreaming and fantasizing about their future. I can absolutely guarantee you that nobody ever dreamed of being homeless, living on the streets, battling mental illness, battling an addiction, and being despised and outcast. In fact, if you go back to the 12-year-old little Alan Graham, I had 3 fundamental dreams. They're kind of funny, but we all have those. One, I wanted to be a rock star. I actually played the guitar and had a little band at the time, and I thought someday I could be that person on stage. And incredibly, at 64 years old, when I hear a great song come on the radio, one of my favorite songs, it's as if I'm being transported on stage with the guitar in hand, singing those songs. And I know that that will never happen. I thought I could be a pro football player. And I was a pretty good football player in junior high school, decent in my early high school years. Realized that there were people by the time I became a junior and senior that were far superior than I would ever be. But when I watch a great football game and I see a great play unfold, somehow I see myself in that position. And then the last thing that I dreamed of being was a jet fighter, a pilot. And I'm actually a licensed pilot because I love airplanes, but there's no way that Uncle Sam's ever going to put me into an F-22, a $500 million F-22 airplane. And so, but the point of those dreams and those fantasies are the embers of dreaming about what it is that we can become in our lives. And so if each of us go back to that 12-year-old self, you begin to see certain fantasies that you had. And perhaps you grew up in an environment where people were pouring fuel on top of those embers in order to light and ignite those dreams. And more importantly, to ignite your ability to dream and to do. So I can see where I am today at 64 years old as a course of a lot of people pouring that fuel on top of my dreams. And that's the same way for the men and women that you see standing on those street corners and begging for spare change. What they want is somebody to come alongside them and help them pour fuel on whatever their adult dreams are. One of our goals is to rediscover people's God-given gifts and to help them put those things into the economy. Now let's talk about panhandling for a minute so that we come to an understanding of what's happening on those street corners. When I moved to Austin, Texas in 1976, there were no panhandlers on the streets of Austin, Texas. it was so the exception to even find one in downtown. And I came out of the Houston area and it was the same thing. What you instead saw were men and women standing on the street corner selling bottles of water, newspapers, flowers, cow skulls, cow skins, and I know your favorite, velvet Elvis art. But over the past 40 years or so, we have essentially outlawed those entrepreneurial experiences, are made the licensing of those so costly and so onerous that the only remaining bastion of entrepreneurialism turns out to be the First Amendment free speech right to stand there and beg. And I can tell you that people don't want to beg. They would make far more money selling you flowers and bottles of water if that wasn't against the law in our respective cities. So within the Community First Village model, we have created what we call Community Works, which is an entrepreneurially based model that includes artwork, blacksmithing, pottery, silk screening, maintenance, car care. We have a movie theater here that people are employed. We have a culinary operation. And last year alone, in 2019, through all of those industries, those entrepreneurial industries, we distributed $780,000 of dignified income to men and women who used to stand on the street corner and panhandle. And this year, we're already on track to far exceed $1 million. And so, our goal is to come in and pour embers on top of, pour fuel on top of the embers that are always burning inside of people. Now, one of our fundamental philosophies is that the government will never be able to solve these problems, yet we continue to lean into government to solve these problems. At Mobile Loaves and Fishes, we believe that government should only play a subsidiary role to you and I in managing these profound issues. That the first and foremost front line of defense happens to be our families and our community, and particularly that Forge family. But if there's a complete breakdown within the family and the Forge family, whose responsibility does that become? And we believe that it's all of our responsibility. So if we have neighbors that are standing on our street corners, no matter how caustic that looks to us, no matter how trashy, and by the way, if you come into our village, you will not see trash on the ground. You will not see smell urine and feces. It's amazing when people have access to running water, running sewer, and trash collection on a daily basis, how they care for themselves. And that's the way it is with the chronically homeless. Even though what we see under our bridges is a complete mess, we've got to understand that that mess would extend to us if suddenly we didn't have running water, running sewer, and trash collection. 100% of the money that has gone into building this community has come through private philanthropy. Private donations, individuals. We've raised nearly $50 million alone in capital to build phase 1 and phase 2. And we are now embarking on building a phase 3 and 4. We have acquired another 126 acres of property that will essentially be about a $200 million campaign over the next bunch of years in order to add about 1,400 more homes to the inventory here in Austin, Texas. And when you talk about partnerships, when you talk about communities can, when you really think about the model of community first, what we're saying to the community that if we want to mitigate this, it's up to us collectively to do that. To just yell and scream at the mayor and the city council through social media is not going to get the job done. I'll tell you that no matter how much we think they had the money to do this, they don't. And especially into these times of post-COVID, when the revenue of the states and all of our cities have dropped precipitously, It's really going to be up to you and I. And so this is an opportunity to talk about how powerful the home building community is to Austin, to what we're doing here at Community First Village. I will tell you that our partnership began with the relationship that we have with a building supply company called McCoy's Building Supply. Brian and Megan McCoy have been partners of ours for many, many, many years, and their connection to the home building industry was the game changer for Mobile Loaves and Fishes. And so a couple of things happened over the years that connect the building industry to the work that we've done and have taught us how powerful the building industry is to what we do. First of all, when the original site plan for Mobile Loaves and Fishes was being created, an architect friend of ours came in and saw that much of the orientation of what we were doing was just going to create these little soldiers that were all lined up in lines, and it was going to be a very transactional looking model as opposed to a relationship community building model. And so he came in and helped us entirely restructure our site plan to fit a more community oriented built environment that we were looking for. And then he, along with another architect friend of ours, went to the American Institute of Austin chapter, and their design voice, and we started a competition to build and design tiny homes called Tiny Victories, and you can actually go to Tiny Victories, TinyVictories.org, and see that campaign. And that was in 2014. And from that, we had about 65 entries, and there were 4 finalists and 11 semifinalists. And the homes that were built are, some of the cutest homes. In fact, Megan McCoy Jones one time to all the architects and the builders that came alongside, and I'll speak to that in just a moment. We're probably going to be building homes for customers that were going to be the happiest, most satisfied customers that they've ever dealt with. And in an amazing way, that's turned out to be true. Once we had all these designs, then we put together a strategy and invited many of the custom and production home builders of Austin out to the village. And this was in early 2015, and invited them to take on the challenge of building a bunch of these homes. And I got to tell you, some of the greatest custom and production home builders came on board, helped us build a ton of homes. It was an extraordinary experience. Phase 2, which is about to open, we've just completed 8 builds in partnership with HomeAid, which is a partnership of the Greater Austin Home Builders Association. Plus, we also started a new Tiny Victories version 2, which is also at that website, where we married an architect with one of our neighbors that lives in phase 1 with a builder to build 5 different homes, custom design builds for these neighbors who would move on to phase 2, which is just behind me a couple of hundred yards, as what we call seed neighbors. They would be, 5 of our most stable neighbors that would move in and be part of a welcoming committee as we welcomed men and women up off the streets. And those homes, are just stunning. And so the partnership between the home building industry and Mobile Loaves and Fishes has been nothing short of miraculous. What's amazing is for the most part, and Mobile Loaves is different in that because I come out of the real estate business. I've been in the real estate development business for 42 years here in Austin. I've developed industrial, office, retail, single family, and now this community. So I'm very plugged in to the real estate community. But most nonprofits that are in, the building industry are not as equipped and actually need the building community to be a part of. And the building community holds an extraordinary special place in our efforts to lift men and women up off the streets. Because at the end of the day, man, these are our neighbors. They're not going away. We're not going to policy them out from under those bridges and along our sidewalks. We have to come together as a community with our different giftings to be able to mitigate what we see out there. And if we can do this in our respective communities, we're going to be able to move the needle much faster than continuously yelling at a bureaucratic, non-innovative government to be able to go out there. My invitation to you as I close is we're going to get beyond this COVID thing here. Don't know exactly when, but we would welcome each and every one of you to come to Austin, Texas, and hang out with us for a day and see what's happening here, and see how important your fingerprints on mitigating some of the most profound human issues in our community, and how you can have such a ginormous impact on that. And with that, I will close, hoping that the technology all worked. I really appreciate this, Scott, and team Tab and the sponsors. God bless y'all. Thank you.
Thank you, Alan. Really appreciate that. Thank you so much for your dedication, your mission. We've been watching and participating on the state level, and our local Greater Austin Builders Association here has been involved from the beginning with your Mobile Loaves and Fishes, and now Community First Village. And I will echo, I've had an opportunity to see what y'all are doing out there, and will urge our members all over the state and folks around the country that are watching this, when you get down to Austin, come out and see it. If you'd like more information, please go to their website. It's mlf.org, and you can read about their mission. There's some great pictures on there of what they're doing. I think there's some drawings of the various phases as they come online. I urge you to do that. Also want to thank Great American Insurance Group for supporting us this morning. Thank you for your patience as we work through technical challenges of trying to do this. We have prepared a virtual show guide for the Sunbelt Builders Show. It was included in this invitation email, and I invite you to go on to our website, www.sunbeltbuildershow.com, and you can get a copy of that. And we urge you to use that show guide and do business with our sponsors and exhibitors. Thank you again for taking the time, Alan. Thank you for all the participants that watched this morning. If you have any questions about what we do, or if the association can help you, please don't hesitate to contact us via email or give us a call. I want you all have a great day.